air and prevention of pollution in water. So two various legislations, and this is about the another pollution. This is called a noise. So you know very well, noise pollution is the pollution more decibel of sounds create the disturbance, which means a nuisance. Liability, it is a nuisance. For that purpose, we have a legislation how we can ratify or how we can get rid of this such kind of noise pollution in a legal way. What we have to do if we have or if we are undergoing any such kind of nuisance because of this kind of noises, what we have to do, what is the role of state government in this regards, and what is the role of police as well as the role of local bodies in this regard. So this is what you are going to see. For this purpose, we have to know about certain meaning of the certain terms. First one is, if we are going to refer the term act in this legislation, in this noise pollution rules 2000, then it is eventually means that Environment Protection Act 1986. So this is the act which is like a parent act in India, which means for a purpose of the environmental protection. This is the act, this is the legislation, and this legislation, you know very well, this legislation is the outcome of the Bhopal gas tragedy. Various declarations, kind of declarations and all. So now act means the Environment Act 1986. Term is a public place, which can come under the purview of the public place. For the purpose of this, for example, why this specific term public place? Because if we are the sound, if we are isolated from the city or if the public place, we can have a liberty to hear whatever the decibel is. But when it comes to the public place, we should be restrict ourselves from hearing of such kind of sounds, such kind of noises. So for that purpose, we should know what is the meaning of public place. Second one is, the public place means any place to which the public have access, whether as of right or not, and include convention centers, public offices, shopping malls, cinema halls, educational institution, libraries, open grounds, and the like, which are visited by general public. So these are all the things which comes under the purview of the public places. And now we are going to see how much of sounds we can hear in the such kind of places. What is the extent of sound we can hear from the such kind of places? So we have to very clear about it. So for this purpose of this legislation, we have certain extent. According to the regulation, according to the rules under the noise pollution rules 2000, they have a certain codified rules and regulations. To the what extent we can hear the sounds, to the what extent it is not a disturbance. According to this, they classify the zones. So in public place itself, we can classify the zones by way of classifying the zones into a industrial purpose, commercial purpose, residential purpose, and silent zone. So according to this zones, we can improvise or we can hear the sounds. We can use the sounds, which means by way of a speaker or by way of mic or by way of bursting the crackers, how much of decibel sounds it is going to given how much of decibel of sounds we are going to use or we are going to hear. It is about the zones they classified. Then this purpose of this legislation, we should know the term night time, because in recently the crackers, this rule only, they have restricted the bursting of crackers in a night time. So for that purpose, we have to know what is the meaning of the term night time. So means the period between 10 p.m. and 6 p.m. 10 p.m. and 6 p.m. So we would have come across with the various rules and regulations in the newses. For example, bursting of crackers after 10 o'clock is an offense, and conducting any kind of commercial dramas or commercial any kind of dance programs in festival seasons and all, it comes under the purview of this rule only. They will not give any kind of such kind of permissions according to this noise pollution rules 2000. So now we are getting into the act, and third one is the ambient air quality standards in respect of the noise for different areas and zones. So areas and zones, it depends, as we told earlier, according to this the state government, the areas into industrial, commercial, residential and silent for the purpose of implementation of noise standards for different areas. So it depends. So things, and according to the classification and according to that zones, we can implement the standards of noises. So ambient air quality, what is meant by ambient? Ambient is nothing but it is an ambience which is meant by a surroundings to this, surrounding to us. For example, if I am living in a public area, for example, if I am in any public places, if anyone conducting a public meeting, so they have Noise Pollution Act 2000. This act prevent the environment, because noise pollution also comes under the purview of the environmental degradation. So this legislation, this rules, the very object of this rules is to eradicate such kind of pollution in an environment. So the surroundings should be very clean and clear. So for this purpose, they segregated the areas into industrial areas, commercial areas, residential areas, or silent area zones. So silent area zones is nothing, hospitals, institutions. So all these kind of things comes under the purview of silent area zones. So now section 3, subclause 3. The state government shall take measures for abatement of noise emanating from vehicular movement. For example, blowing of horns, bursting of sound eminent firecrackers, use of speakers or public address system, and sound producing instruments. So using of all these kinds of instruments will create a more decibel sounds in a public places. So the state government have the responsibility to take care of all such kind of operations made by the such kind of instruments, and ensure that existing noise levels do not exceed the ambient air quality standards. So according to this legislation, according to this rules 2000, they have limits according to prescribed area. So they segregated the area, and according to that segregation of area, they have allowed how much of decibel sounds to the area. For example, if it is an industrial area, how much of decibel can be used in that area. If it is a residential area, how much of sounds can be used in the area. If it is a silent area, how much of sound has to be used in a such kind of area. So these are all the things has to be considered, and this is prescribed under this legislation, which means rules 2000. So now you have a clarity why they segregated into the various zones, and what is the purpose of giving rules and regulations according to the decibel sounds, according to the sounds. Now the fourth, all development authorities, local bodies and other concerned authorities, while planning development activity or carrying out functions relating to town country planning, shall take into consideration all aspects of noise pollution as a parameter of quality of life to avoid noise menace and to achieve the object of maintaining the ambient air standards, quality standards in respect of the noise. So what is the purpose of it? This legislation, as we know, this legislation is to give the proper rules and according to the rules and regulations, we have to eradicate the environmental degradation by way of the noise pollution. So this legislation has certain bodies, state government bodies, development authorities, local bodies, and other concerned authorities have the responsibility to take care of the such kind of act to prevent the environmental degradation by way of the noise pollution. So that is what they are mentioning here. So now the fifth one, an area comprising not less than 100 meters as silent area zone for the purpose of this rules. Yeah, we know what is meant by commercial area and we know what is meant by residential area. Now the area which is called as a silent areas, silent zone. So for that purpose, according to the section 3 subclause 5, they are giving a meaning, they're giving the definition for the silent area zone. Any area comprising not less than 100 meters around the hospitals comes under the purview of the silent zones. Around the hospitals, around the education, silent area zone. Purpose of this rules according to the state government. Hope you guys understood. So this section 3 is very much essential in noise pollution rules because according to this section only we are going to read various provisions in these rules. So the first thing we have to know about is they have segregated the areas and zones according to the nature: industrial area, commercial area, residential area, and silent area, which means silent zone. So you know about the three areas, and silent area is per 100 meters around hospital, education institution, and court may be declared as a silent area. So what is the object of this act? To eradicate the environmental degradation by way of the noise pollution. By the imposing the certain rules, they are eradicating it. The executive authority is a state government, local bodies, and concerned other authorities, as well as the developing authorities, or according to this legislation. Now we are moving into the section 4. The responsibility as to enforcement of noise pollution control measures. What kind of responsibility and what kind of enforcement they are enforcing? The first one, the noise level in any area zone shall not exceed the ambient air quality standards in respect of noise as specified in the schedule. So we will be seeing the schedule in last stage, and the area we have seen in the section 3, they have segregated the area, and according to that area, how much of decibels that area can be used, which means how much of decibel sounds the area in that area we can use, we can hear. So according to this section 4, if anyone is exceeding to that decibels, they are liable for that. So second one is the authority shall be responsible for the enforcement of noise pollution control measures and due compliance of ambient air quality in the respect of noise. So what they are trying to do now, they're giving the authority to the various responsible enforcement of noise pollution control. So they have to take actions if any body, if any private person, or if any authority, or if any group of people or any political party is utilizing it, or if anyone is overriding the such kind of provisions, then what this government have to do, what the state authorities have to do. So that is what are responsible. They have to be very responsible. And next one is the respective state pollution control boards or pollution control committees in consultation with the central pollution control board shall collect, compile, and publish technical and statistical data relating to noise pollution and measures devised by its effective control and abatement. Control and abatement. The respective state pollution control board, which is in a state, and central pollution control board, which is in a central, how to collectively collect the data of noise pollution, as well as how they are going to eradicate the such kind of noise pollution, which means they have to make a schedule for eradicating the such kind of noise pollution. So that is what they are telling. Next one is restriction on use of loudspeakers and address system. What is meant by use of sound speakers? For if any political party is conducting any kind of public or any kind of they are going to address in the public, so obviously they need a surround system, which means loudspeakers, mics, as well as various lighting systems. So for that purpose, because there will be a huge number of people assembled in front of the stage, and they have to reach each and everyone. So for that purpose, they have to use the loudspeakers. So at the time, how much of decibel sounds such loudspeaker can make? If they are not following the rules and regulations, what will be the consequence? That is what the section 5 is. So before conducting any kind of such kind of public meeting or public, if the person is going to address a public, that should be a permission obtaining from the authority, concerned authority. If I'm going to conduct any kind of meeting in a public, I have to approach the noise pollution, that state board, and I have to obtain a permission for such kind of meeting, and I have to mention from which time to which time I'm going to conduct the meeting, and how many speakers I'm going to use, and how many mics I'm going to use. I have to produce all kind of systematic things which I'm going to utilize in a schedule, in my schedule, in my public speaking, in my address to the public system. So that is what this legislation is. If I'm going to do any such kind of act, I have to obtain permission from the concerned authority. The very first itself, they are telling a loudspeaker or public address system shall not be used except after obtaining the written permission from the authority. So if I am getting a written permission, I can utilize it in any way. Is that is a meaning? No. According to the segregation of the area, to utilize I have to utilize the decibel of sound decibels. Volume. If I'm increasing the volume to the various extent to reach all the way to the all people, that is not a proper thing, because just because I'm obtaining the permission, I cannot and silent area. They have to utilize this area. We have to speak in this area according to rules and regulation. We cannot override the such kind of rules and regulation just because I have the permission. So 5 subclause 4, the noise level at the boundary of public space where loudspeaker or any other noise source used shall not exceed 10 decibel. So when it is in a boundary of the public place, the loudspeaker or public address system or any other noise source is being used shall not exceed 10 decibel. Another thing, above the ambient noise whichever is lower. For example, whichever is lower. So according to this legislation, follow, that has to be follow. For example, if it is a peripheral noise level of privately owned sound system or sound producing instrument shall not be of the private place exceed by more than 5 decibel the ambient noise standards of area which it is used. For example, if it is a public boundary area, 10 decibel. If it is a private public area, private place area, then it is a 5 decibel. Now, the restrictions on use of the horns, sound emitting construction, equipment, and bursting of firecrackers. So, no horn shall be used in silent zones or during night time in a residential except during a public emergency. So if you're thinking it is a public emergency, for example, if any person is, then ambulance comes under the purview of the exceptions. They can put the siren sound inside the residential area because it is a. So if any kind of if the chief minister or if the or if high court judges are coming or if they are visiting sirens, that sound will not come under the purview of the exception because it is a public emergency. Unless and until it is a public emergency, we cannot give any kind of sounds and we cannot degrade the environment by way. Next one is sound emitting firecrackers shall not be burst in silence. Last year also the government imposed the rules and regulation because it will come under the purview of the in silent area. Obviously we can or any hospital premises. So this sound emitting burst in a silent zone or during a night time because next one is some sound emitting equipment shall not be used or operated during the night. If anyone is doing a construction, obviously that is comes under the purview of the offense because that sounds, everything will create a more huge environmental degradation. Next one is the concept penalty. What the people can do, what the authority can do after this noise pollution rules 2000. Any place covered under silent zone, area zone, according to the section 6, if anyone is playing instruments or burst or emitting crackers or using of law 6, which means they will be imposing the penalty. Then complaints to be made and I can make a written concern authority will take action, necessary action against creating a noise pollution. Now the power to prohibit. Though consent from the authority, if they are overriding schedule prescribed in this rule, the authority can cancel the such kind of permission. They can not allow the person, or they may not allow the person to continue the program in a various premises. So this is the schedule. See rule 3.1 and 4.1. Industrial area and minimum, so we can use it for the 70 decibels. In commercial area, daytime we can use it for the 65 decibels and nighttime 55 decibels. In residential area, 55 in a daytime and 45 in a nighttime. In silent zone, 50 decibels in a daytime and 40 decibels in a nighttime. So for this purpose, it means 10 p.m. to 6 p.m. So these are all the rules, noise pollution rules 2000. According to this, we have to utilize the law. We have to use the decibel of sounds according to this rules 2000 of noise pollution. Now we are going to see about the environment creating an impact in a society. What kind of progress this environment and the various legislations is taking place in an environment. So we have to assess whether this environmental protection is useful or not, whether the noise pollution is useful or not, whether various legislations like Water Act, GAR Act is useful or not. So only if we are going to assess it, only if we are making an, we can get to know what is the exact outcome of the such kind of legislation. So environmental impact assessment is to assess whether the legislation is proper, the industrialization is proper, the urban area is getting utilized to these such kind of legislation, the rural area is getting affected because of any kind of activities. Kind of acts has to be assessed, as well as all kind of natural resources has to be assessed for the purpose of eradicating the environmental degradation. First one, introduction to it, and environmental impact assessment directive, history of environmental of the impact assessment, and process, how it is. So kindly note down, these are all the process. They will screening. So screen what is the natural resources. So they will screen, take a screenshot. Screening. Next one is initial environmental examination. After the screening, after screening the problems, after screening the various authorities, or after screening the various environmental disasters in the environment, they will be go environment examination. What are all the laws disaster? What are all the laws? What are all the impact this legislation is creating? Behaviors, or what are all the activities which degrade environment? This is the initial environment examination. Next one is scoping. They will make a plan how to eradicate. Assessment, overview the scoping. They will overview the scoping as well as the examination and the screening. Next, they will make a decision how to eradicate the such kind of things. And next one is monitoring and audit evaluation. Audit evaluation is nothing but it is a auditing, and it is to funding. So next we will be seeing the assessment conclusion. So now, introduction. Environmental impact assessment is a process which ensures that all environmental matters are taken into account quite early in a project planning process itself. So every process has a project. Every project process, as well as every process, it depends on the environment. When it comes to the environment, for example, last week, few days before, in Vizag, there is a styrene gas leak. So what is the, so we have to testify, we have to assess whether existing law is proper. Bhopal gas tragedy in 1981. So after that, there will be a huge change in the Environmental Act, the Environmental Protection Act on 1980. Now the same kind of thing is happening. So now it is the time to assess whether the created any kind of impact in the society, how this kind of to focus. We have decision we have to make. What kind of act can be eradicate the civilization? So this is the process. This is called the environmental impact assessment. Next one is, this is the how we have to assess. Here, transparency, there should be a certainty, there should be a participation of various authorities, and it should be practicability. It should be applicable, and cost of effectiveness. It should be much effective and credibility. Should have a credibility. You have to believe it. The outcome should be credible. Then it is accountability. Obviously, you know the accountability, which is nothing but the funding. Why EIA? What is the purpose of EIA? So it is very clear according to our discussion itself. We are very clear. Project. So we should know the overall of the project for the purpose of imposing kind of legislations. First one is the lower project cost in the long term, increased project acceptance, improved project. So when we have the without the impact, predict what is going to happen next. So that should be a proper, be a assessment towards the utilization of the environment of the legislation. Next one is what wait a minute. Environmental impact assessment. What are all the substance, what are the things we are going to concentrate on? What kind of what materials and what kind of things we are going to concentrate? So first one is they will be concentrating human beings, fauna and flora. It is nothing but it's the plants and animals. And next one is soil, water and air. And next one is climate and the landscape, material assets, cultural heritage, interaction between all above the fact. So these are all the things they are going to. So environmental impact assessment, they are going to assess these things: human beings, fauna is animals and plants, soil, water, climate and the landscape, material assets, cultural heritage. So these are all the things they are going to assess. The goal of the environmental impact assessment, goal they have, what is the purpose, very basic purpose of the environmental impact assessment, what they will do with that. First one is resource conservation. They will conserve the resources. We are going to assess the environments, each and every living organisms in the environment, each and every natural resources in the environment. Obviously we can not going to assess it. Obviously we are going to overutilize. If we are going to assess it, how much of resources we are provided with, how much of resources we have to utilize, how much of resources we have to use it as a sustainable development, how much resources we have to carry forward to the next generation. So we have to in a such kind of way. So only if we have the any kind of impact assessment, then only we will be following the resource conservations and all. So once after the impact assessment, once after the impacts, there will be a waste minimization. For example, if you are over utilizing the resources, obviously if we have assessment, or obviously if we have any kind of impact, we know the impacts, how it is creating in a society, how it's creating in an environment. Obviously the over utilizing things will be come to the we will reduce the over utilization. So obviously there will be a waste minimization. We will not use the such kind of resources for the over utilization. So that will be a waste minimization. Next one is recovery products. By way of assessment, we will be recover the waste resources like byproducts. Next one is efficient use of equipment. For example, once we were using the various equipments for the purpose of environmental protection. But according to the technological improvements, only if you assess the technology, only if you the environment along with the technology, we will be utilizing the technology in a proper way. For example, once upon the time, we were utilizing hand pumps. So obviously, because of the using of the hand pumps, we will be losing water resources. Now, because of the technological improvement, we will be using the various means of efficient use of the equipment. We can easily safeguard the natural resources. Next one is very essential thing and sustainable development, and there is no need for the sustainable definition of the sustainable development. You people are well versed with the sustainable development. It is a futuristic thought process for the purpose of the we have to utilize without the compromisation, but we have to give the natural resources to the upcoming generation also. So with we are going to utilize the natural resources and we are going to safeguard the same natural resources to the future generation. That is what the sustainable development is. Only if we have the environmental impact assessment, we will be utilizing the in such a way. So these are all the projects according to the environmental impact assessment. So they will be concentrating in agriculture, they will be mines, they will be concentrating in the industries, they will be concentrating in the management. So they will be concentrating in the forest, they will be concentrating and they will be concentrating in the industries, and they will be concentrating in the roadways. So impact assessment is not a process you're assessing the whole universe itself. This is meaning. Next one is initial environmental. One is initial environmental examination review, whether there is a need of any kind of environmental assessment, impact assessment or not. If it is required, then we will be moving to the scoping. And next one is a full scale environmental impact assessment, and there will be a review of full scale, and there will be, and next one is decision making by way of the environmental assessment, then monitoring, then there will be a audit and going to check and matrixes risk of the risk we are going to face, overlays, expert systems, and risk assessments. From qualitative assessment to the quantitative assessment. I've discussed about this only in a previous. So what is the uses of environmental impact assessment? The first one is systematic evaluation of eco-friendly project. First one, risk and hazard assessment, impact identifiable, strategic environmental assessment, and permit. So these are all the focusing into it, and which is useful by way of the environmental impact assessment. Next one is coastal regulation. We know very well because we have conducted the on environmental in our national moot court competition, and that problem depends on this coastal region. We can segregate the coastal regulation zone as CRZ1 on 2, coastal regulation zone 3, and coastal regulation. First of all, we are going to see what is meant by coastal regulation zone. I'd line up to 500 meters. The coastal regulation located in a sea bay area, which 500 meters. The high tide means the 100 meters of distance. So that will comes under the purview of the coastal regulation. We are going to because it is comes under the purview of the marine ecosystem. Be very careful while utilizing the let the people to utilize the subsidy will degrade the environment. So there should be a such kind of utilization of the CRZ zone. So zone as well as a low tide zone. So the minimum level of the seashore of sandy, stony, and rocky land bordering and level with the sea area from the high tide line to the low tide line shore, which means nothing but if it is a marina, the sand, no, that is called as a CRZ zone. It is comes under the purview of the environment construction. But the same way, if you are getting in, or if you are getting into the what's that? The Leela Palace. So now we have the question and be made by the inside the CRZ zone. So now we have 3 or 4. So this is all change in the environment will create a very big impact in the environment. So that is why we have to utilize the CRZ zones, CR zones in a proper way. So there is a regulations. So this is a very proper pictures differentiating the zones. First one is C here in right side corner. C high tide line 500 meters. After that, we have the constructions. That area comes and tide line is differentiating. So low tide line is it's a wave. There is a high tide line. The wave which may extend to come in the places. So according to that area, they are segregating the zones, and according to the segregating, the differentiating the various zones. CRZ1, CRZ2, and CRZ3 and 4. From high and low tides, which can lead to the destruction. So there should be not only prevent the tides but also helps in problems. The construction on sand is practically impossible. So it is not possible to build a building. The next one is the foundation and stills are the most important steps in the construction. With stronger foundation, so that should be a proper zone. CRZ 1. So the areas that are ecologically sensitive and geomorphologically features which play a role in maintaining the integrity of the coast. Mangroves, in case mangrove area more than a, so buffer zone is nothing but the radius, 50 meters of radius. We know CRZ1, next one is 2 and 3 according to the leveling to the meters according to the distance from the coastal. Next we are going to see about the plastic waste. So plastic waste is nothing but waste which affects the sand and which infertile one, and obviously it creates the soil erosion and infertile land. The purpose we have the certain legislations. We have a certain accumulation of plastic waste in the environment. It can be categorized in the primary plastics as well as the secondary plastics. So we'll rush here. Unplastic Collective has revealed that India generates 9.46 million tons of the plastic packaging more to make the two kinds of plastics. So minimum, the more than that will comes under the purview of the macroplastics, which is can be reusable. For example, single-use plastic is a disposable material that can be used only once before it is either thrown away or recycled. Like plastics, bags, water bottles, soda bottles, straws, plastic plates, cups, most food packaging and coffee stirrers are sources of the single-use plastics. India has announced the single-use plastics by 2022 and Confederation of Indian Industry Sustainability Summit in New Delhi. So outcome of that only in Tamil Nadu, they introduced the plan use of biodegradable wastes and not using of the non-biodegradable wastes, which means the plastics only. So every year 8.3 billion tons of plastics is filling the landfills, which is affecting the nature. The plastic, whether in river, ocean or land, plastic in seas and oceans across the world will weigh more than the fish, which means if we are dumping into the sea, obviously it will affects the marine ecosystem, and if we are going to affect the marine ecosystem, obviously it is eventually it falls in the environmental degradation also. So we have to reduce the plastic usages, and we have to make sure the plastics which we have now should be recycled in a proper way and utilize it in for the various ways. The impact of plastic waste in our society, obviously it creates economic losses, implication of animals, implication for humans, land pollution, water pollutions, and ground. It will create a very big impact in the groundwater pollution. This will happen if we are using the plastics. So very big global intervention, and there will be a very big impact because of the economical loss as well as a. So we have the waste management, plastic waste management, waste management amendment rules 2018, which extend the producer's responsibility. Plastic producers have to think of it, and they have to manufacture it in a recycled manner, and they have to very keen about the environmental. So next one is a biomedical waste, and medical waste is nothing but any waste which is diagnosis, treatment, or immunization of or research activities pertaining thereto, or in the production or testing of biological or health camps, including the categories mentioned in the Schedule 1. biomedical waste is nothing but it is a waste which is utilizing in the centers. All these waste comes under the purview of the biomedical waste. Even this biomedical waste comes under the purview of the Biomedical Waste Management Rules 2000, and according to the rule 3, so occupier is control over the institution and premises generating the waste, which includes a hospital, nursing home, clinic and dispensary, veterinary institution. So it is a definition in the biomedical waste. Who there won't be a consumer, but the such kind of biomedical things. 4 clause 1 biomedical waste management rule, it is due to steps to ensure that biomedical waste is handled without any adverse effect. So if hospital is handling any kind of biomedical waste, this rule, they have to take care of the impact. To the rule 7 provides guidelines with respect to the if the hospital is having any kind of such waste, they have to transport it to the proper place, and they have to think whether it has to be recycled. Next one is e-waste. It is electronic waste. Also, e-waste in Indian of waste generated in India generates in the India. E-waste is nothing but to say electronic. And only few are recycling it. Various in the soil infertile. Amendment rules 2003 and e 2008 and e-waste management of the e-waste. So e-waste, the e-waste has to be considered as a threat to the society, and we have to recycle. We have to take care of the session. The Public Liability Insurance Act 19 it is the act which is hazardous. If hazardous substance in the industries or any kind of any machineries, then if the person is affecting with any kind of incidents connected therewith, then obviously according to this legislation the people will get compensation. So immediate and expeditious remedy by way of this 91 requirement of this act is 3 incorporates the principles of liability without fall on the owner liability, which means the person should handling the hazardous substance machineries or any kind of industries, that person injured, then the person is getting injured, then the person will come under the purview of this act and they can claim for the insurance. And section 4 requires the owner to take one or more insurance. For example, if I am running any kind, make sure to take an insurance so that they will be get insurance after the handling of any kind of waste and substances. And section 5 requires the collector to verify and make publicity about the of the accidents and inviting application from the claim for relief as provided under section 6. So if any kind of accidents occurs, then I collector, district collector, and I have to make sure they are getting a allowances. And powers under the act impose the central government relief fund, and 9, 10 and 11 deals with the powers for calling the information, entry and inspection and search and seizure of any industries. Section 12 empowers the central government to issue a direction in writing or any person, officer, authority or agencies. So penalties up to 18 months of imprisonment if any person is not comply with this act, then minimum 18 months of the which may extend to 6 years or not less than a 1 rupees of fine. And second and subsequent above failure a contravention, the offender shall be liable to imprison more than for a term of 2 years, which may extend to 7 years and with fine of not less than 1 lakh. So if the person is not compliance of section 9 and 11 shall be attract a penalty of imprisonment up to 3 months or with fine up to rupees 10,000 on with both. Next one is the National Green Tribunal Act, and we know very well this act is remedy for the environmental degradation. It is not necessary to approach the straight away approach the High Court or Supreme Court. We have to approach the National Green Tribunal as per the National Green Tribunal Act 2010. This National Green Tribunal Act 2010, it has a judicial authority. It has an equal judicial authority which may impose the fine up to 10 crores, even more than that, if anyone is degrading the environment. So it is not having any kind of rules as per the section Civil Procedure Code or as per the sections Indian Evidence Act. It has their own tribunal rules and regulations according to this act. It has 3 schedules and 5 chapters, totally 38 sections. And the section 3 has the establishment of the green tribunals. Chairperson not less than 20 full-time expert members. Objectives of National Green is to, so we know very well, expeditious remedy and speedy remedy if there is any environmental degradation. Next one, last one is penalty. As I saw, we know earlier. So not less than which may extend to the 10 crores or which may 20, if we are not disobeying the orders of the tribunal, then 20,000 may be imposed on daily basis. Application is nothing but the legislations with Environmental Act have the jurisdiction. The water or anyone casting the pollution to the air or water, the person can impose or person can file the case in a green tribunal has a chairperson and 20 full-time judiciary members, 20 expert members, as well as a tribunal expert as well as a non-judicial persons. So it is substantially, it is to take care of the environment degradation. It is not necessary to approach the government directly, state judiciary directly, but to approach filing the case in a high court and the alternative resolution. Thank you so much.